there is an entire new concept in Excel which is called as a data modeling, or there is another new concept in Excel which is called as Power Query. So just to brief on this context, so Power Query is a tool which is an ETL tool. It helps us get data from different sources. We can consolidate that data and we can clean that data and transform that data. So in that context, Power Query is used. Power Query is based on M language. So here in Excel we use these formulas, right, to do anything. But in Power Query, to do something, either you can do some graphical prompts, or you can use M language to write something. And then there is something called as Power Pivot in Excel. So Power Pivot is based on DAX language, which is called as data analysis language. So Power Pivot is based on DAX. Now these two tools help you work on large data sets. So like, let's say you have 10,000 rows of data sets, then of course you can build it on Excel. But Excel cannot go beyond the 10 lakh rows. So 10 lakh is the maximum amount of rows which you can have in Excel. But like, let's say you want to work on 1 crore rows, then Excel as a tool will not help you. But within Excel, you can use Power Query or you can use Power Pivot to work on those large data sets. So to understand Power Query better, you will have to learn M language. And to understand Power Pivot better, you will have to learn DAX language. And these are the two areas which are majority of the people who work in finance industries, they don't tend to use it. But I feel that with the big data coming in, right, we have so much of data dump, we are tracked continuously. So there needs to be a very effective way of analyzing these data sets and make some conclusions out of that data set. So in this context, I think Power Pivot and Power Query will be helpful. And pivot tables to मैं use ही नहीं करता हूँ, because as I told you, like pivot table is an old concept now. We have a pivot by function in Excel. So in the interest of time, I'll just show you that function. So this is a pivot by function. So again, Control A, help on this function. So we go to the Microsoft support page and you can see this. Microsoft has, this is my normal pivot table: year, category, product, sales and rating. And Microsoft has used this pivot by function. And you can see that this pivot table has been created where we have summarized, product wise data using a pivot by function. So pivot tables, again, not very relevant because we have pivot by function, but in some context for basics users, pivot tables are still relevant. And when you use Power Pivot to get the output, you can also use pivot tables. So pivot tables, maybe I'll just show you, like I'll just quickly show you Alt and R. Sorry, Alt from table range. Here you can see in pivot table, there is something called as add to this data model. So this data model is nothing but, this Power Pivot in Excel. So where you can analyze big data by putting the data into a data model. So these are some new functionalities in pivot tables which we tend to ignore, right? जब भी हम pivot table लगाते हैं, हम लोग इतना ही देखते हैं, we have never read this, like, what is this about? But if you have a lot of data across multiple tables, then you can add this to a data model and you can use it. So just to summarize our discussion, so Power Query will help you get data from different sources. I'll quickly show you one example of Power Query. So let me just show you world population numbers. So let's go to this data set. I hope this data has some tables, or maybe let me just check Olympics data table rankings. So now this is the data which I have. So this is 2024 summary Olympics ka data, and these are the data tables which I want. Now I want these values within Excel. So what I can do is I can, one desi way is that ये आप copy paste कर लो, but again the problem is कि ये data update होगा तो आपको फिर से copy paste करना पड़ेगा. So let's try it using some new tools in Excel which is called as Power Query. So Power Query is nothing but go to data tab, you get data and see these are the different sources from where you can get the data. So अगर आपकी कंपनी में कोई सर्वर आप यूज करते हो, SQL server, so you can directly link it to Excel, you will get the data here. So let me just go to from other sources and from web, and I will put this value which is the URL which I just copied. I'll click on OK. And now a Power Query window will open up, So it's slightly slower, but because we are connecting the data from the web, it's equivalent to what we call as web scraping.
So even if the data is updated on that website, it will automatically
get updated here. So see, these are the different tables which I can populate, right? So let's say I want to get this particular table. So I can say I want these and these two tables. I go to transform data. So this is the Power Query editor where I can edit this data set, right? Where maybe I don't want something like, let's say I don't want gold, silver, bronze total.
Wow.
I want in this particular fashion कि पहले total होना चाहिए. Let's say मुझे rank नहीं चाहिए. Like I can make some twists here and then I can just see close and load to. And I can say close and load to like a new worksheet and I click on OK. So it is extracting this data.
Which version of Microsoft Excel is this, by the way?
So I'm using Office 365. So now you can see this data, I have loaded it from the web. So if tomorrow Wikipedia changes anything, right? If there is some change in this data set, all I have to do is go and refresh here and my data will automatically get refreshed. And this also you can put on an auto refresh. So if you want to truly automate something, you can go to Power Query options. And here you can go to connection properties and you can set refresh every 60 minutes, 60 seconds. So this data will automatically get refreshed. So let's say you want to get some stock data into Microsoft Excel. So you can get that with the help of Power Query as a function. So, and if we go here, like let me just go to this Power Query which we have written. So queries and connections. So see, this is the query which we have written. So we can go and edit it. And I'll go to view and I'll go to advanced editor. So this is the code which that has been written in the background by Microsoft. Now and this is called as M language, right? This is M language. See, it starts with let, it ends with in, right? So these are some table reorder columns. So this is M language which Power Query is writing in the background. So either you can use this GUI interface of clicking few things, but of course GUI जो interface है उसके limitations होते हैं, सारी चीजें उसमें नहीं होगी. So in that context you should learn M language, and M language पे you can learn this and you can make some better computations out of it.
So, and what is that valid 70%, empty 30% on the Power Query editor?
Yeah, so I think that was just some error because I loaded two data sets.
Okay.
So I think that was about the table 1 जो यहाँ पे आया है. I think yeah. So see, it tells me कि यहाँ पे कुछ datas में issues है या blank cells है.
Okay.
So it is just giving me that hint. I have cleaned. You require a lot of time to clean these data sets. So this entire functionality in Excel is called as Power Query. So these are few things which exists in like within the Microsoft universe, Power Query. So Power Query helps you to get data from different sources, and then there is a concept called as joins in Excel. So जैसे हम लोग X lookup है, V lookup है, but if you want to perform lookups on tables, right, then you can use the concept of joins. So there are left join, outer join. So if you want to analyze data across different tables, then you can use Power Query there also. So these are some use cases of Power Query, which is based on M language. And second thing which I was discussing was, see again, I'll show you here. So I created this pivot table, which is on 4 million rows of data sets. Now 4
million rows.
Yeah. So Excel cannot handle this, right? So यहाँ पे ये, if you see my Power Pivot and you go to manage, so I've loaded this data table, which has like, it will just keep on going. So it has huge amount. कितना data है देखो?
28,37,732.
732. Yeah. So I've loaded all this data into this Power Pivot.
Okay.
So again, I mean, this Power Pivot is nothing but another functionality in Excel, which is based on DAX language. So Power Pivot helps you get large data and you can work around it and create summary out of it.
So this is super interesting. So इसमें अभी ये जो Power Pivot ये जो है तो ये exactly कैसे लाते कैसे, like how did you get the data here from that 4 million rows?
Yeah, sure. So one thing which you can do is either you can directly connect to a source, or we have something here called as add to data model. So if you want to add any existing Excel table which is there in your worksheets into the data model, then you can click on it and then you can name it and it will get added to your data model.
Okay.
And there are different ways also to pull the data, like from particular source also you can get. So if you go to Power Pivot and you can click on manage, then this again Power Pivot windows kinds of opens up, and then from other sources you can click and you can get the data from different servers, because of course 4 million to sheet mein bhi nahi hoga. So you can go to manage, and from different options you can get the data set. So
Got it.
you get this large data set, you create a pivot table out of it, and you analyze. So it is very faster, and second, you can analyze more than 10 lakh rows of data set, which is not there in the traditional Excel setup. So that is the use case of Power Pivot, which is again based on DAX language, and Power Query, which is based on M language, and the standard Excel functions, which are more than 500 functions in Excel, and plus the new functions like like LAMBDA and all those things. So that is the entire Excel universe which one person should be aware of if he wants to say that he's an advanced Excel user.
Got it. And pivot by was the thing which you showed earlier.
So pivot by, so as I told you, these are the new functions which are launched by Excel. So pivot by is a new function which has been launched by Excel, which is an alternative to pivot tables.
Okay.
So pivot by ho gaya, group by ho gaya, lambda, map, filter. These are all new functions which have come in the last 2 or 3 years.
So you wouldn't recommend anyone to use pivot tables anymore?
So frankly, I say this, like I work on Excel for 8 hours a day. That's my day job. But I never use VLOOKUP. I never use pivot table. So it's not necessary. If you use modern Excel, then most of the things can be done by the alternatives.
Okay.
If you learned something new from this video, do share it with your friends and subscribe to this channel so that we can bring you the best content possible. Also, if you want to watch this entire episode, click on the link in the description box and you can go to Kushal Lodha YouTube channel and watch the entire podcast episode. Thank you so much for watching this and have an amazing day.